Welcome to the Six Again podcast, your new destination for all things NRL. Here to bring you everything from team news to best bets are your hosts Adam Hoy and Jarrod Newton. Let's kick off.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Six Again podcast. This will be the first of our 2 weekly podcasts starting up again this week. That's right, we'll be recording on Wednesdays and Sundays once again because the news just keeps coming in thick and fast. We've also got team lists, etc. to get to leading up to the trial games and round 1. But tonight, it's all pretty much off-field stuff. Jarrod and I are joined by a guest from Pennsylvania out of the USA in Billy. And he's going to say hello anytime now.
You got to actually say something.
I said it.
So for those who are new to the show, Billy is Jarrod's older brother. He's helped us out quite a bit through the show over the last year and a half with regards to guests, etc., and giving us updates of what's going on in league over in the States as well. And he's seen what's been happening over the last couple of days, and definitely he wanted to jump on and, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Pleasure us with his wisdom.
Here we
Something
go.
like that. Jarrod, what have you been up to?
Wants me?
Yeah.
It's been
enough.
actually
Billy,
bad
what have you
day.
been up to?
Yeah, okay.
We've had quite a bit of snow dropped on us right now, so I've been shoveling the driveway 5 times a day. So pretty
It's
much.
way more interesting.
Anything been happening in the States the last couple of months? Boring place to live like us?
We haven't heard anything.
As far as riots are concerned, we're down to about 10 a day, so doing well there.
Excellent.
Haven't
Not
heard
a mainstream sport anymore.
Yeah, what's that?
It's not a mainstream sport anymore.
Yeah,
Can't bet on it.
It gave the rednecks something to do, didn't it? So
Holy shit. You know what? We have to something Jarrod just said, can you bet on it? We gotta get you on later in the year when we're doing best bets, because just listening to American sport, they're a world leader in so many areas, but it's so cute listening to them talk about sports betting, because it's still a new thing in lots of states and areas. They're talking about going, man, you can actually bet on games live during the game. I'm going, yeah.
So what's funny is their big advertisement right now is same game betting. So what you can do is place a bet on a game, but then also within the game, bet on an outcome within that game.
No way.
Yeah, mate, it's pretty funny. Like you said, they're working it out slowly and getting there. And I guess Australia being a leading market in like sports bet, England as well. They're trying to emulate the sort of setups over there. But yeah, it's still got a long way to go. But
it's just so funny listening to them talk about it and just finding all this out for the first time. I really thought they were joking the first time I heard it, but it's absolutely legit.
But they'll probably jump ahead like they do in every other part of sport.
I won't say they'll jump ahead. Like it's going to be hard. Like it's not really apples to apples there, but I think the markets are going to be much larger just because of population.
Yeah.
And I think I was reading an article the other day actually saying that online sports bets up 60% versus going to a bookie is down 80%, and even bets within like friend to friend kind of thing. Like I don't know how they're doing their research, but it's also down like a tremendous amount because of the online betting. That it's just so easy. Like you pick up your phone now and everyone's like, wow, yeah.
So what you're saying, in light of all the other share news coming out of the States, if anyone missed that with regards to GameStonk and all that sort of stuff, I'd be getting on some sport. Were you? Oh my God, that was the funniest story I've ever seen. If you haven't heard about it or seen anything about it, guys, just type in GameStop, Elon Musk, anything like that, Fans Against Wall Street. It'll be a movie in... Oh, what?
Oh, Jesus.
How much did you have in it? Oh, you're on AMC, so we can't get access to any of them.
Yeah, I was on AMC, I was on GameStop, I was on Nokia. I'm down about $400.
Billy's going hard in his isolation on bet.
Wow, there we go.
Not down a tremendous amount. I actually did quite well earlier in the year, so I'm still up.
What, 2 weeks ago?
Like back in March, it took a big hit. So that's
literally. So time's not relative still. All right, we've been,
anyway,
actually a rugby league podcast, and I swear we're about to get to some rugby league, and we're going to be kicking off with a pretty key injury that's happened at the Brisbane Broncos, and we'll get to that in a sec. And before we get into injuries, yes, I am drinking beer, Jarrod. Thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah. What beer are you drinking, Adam?
This week, Guava Sour by Boiling Pot out of Noosa. Oh, there we go. Noosa Sunshine Coast.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, pretty good. I really enjoy it. Tart, but still quite refreshing. Oh, yeah. Anthony Milford broke his hand.
Yeah, and he's rushing to get back to round one. To be honest, when we do our team,
he's rushing. The Broncos aren't.
Yeah, I don't even have him in my top 17 for Broncos.
Well, thanks for the spoiler. That's what we're going to start on Sunday with regards to our
yeah, you know, I just
Jarrod's throwing that out anyway. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have him in there. Like, there's better players there, and I think they deserve a better crack, especially what he brought out last year. So I don't think Broncos.
He's probably better off sitting out round one anyway. They'll cop a flog. Who are they playing again?
I'd say Parramatta by the look of Billy's face.
How did that get on the Friday night, by the way? That's shit.
Because it was such a close contest last year. You got to start off with those top teams versus each other.
Oh, the primetime game is Parramatta versus Broncos. The wooden spooners.
Thanks, Dr. Phil. Anyway, he's going to undergo surgery after scans revealed a metacarpal fracture in his hand. So it wasn't a one that's going to heal on its own. He felt pain in his hand during a drill. That's pretty.
Well, the ball hit his hand for once.
Recovery time of 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah, he really will be pushing it. I had 2 fractures in my index finger, and that was 4 months of rehab just to get full range of motion back. So if he's hopefully, it's not going to affect movement as much. Otherwise, it's going to take obviously longer. Boyd Cordner is set to miss the first opening 12 rounds. We'll come back to that later on. We've got a few opinions based around that. That's been thrown around the media as well, so we'll touch on that. That's due to his repeated concussions and the setbacks that he's still having from that. And we've already talked about the Mitchell Pearce having surgery on his broken thumb. So that's the big news there. Milford out 4 to 6 weeks. Broncos fans keep an eye on that. Everyone else, meh. Little tidbits here. Justin Rodski's been appointed the new Melbourne CEO after Dave Donaghy has stepped down in order to take over the Brisbane Broncos CEO spot that Paul White will step down at the end of February. Dave Donaghy has said that he wants some time off in between jobs, so Broncos will be CEO-less during March until Donaghy steps in. But for anyone who is a fan of the Broncos, who's slightly down about the Milford injury, this should make you feel 100 times better, because Dave Donaghy has been instrumental in turning Melbourne into the powerhouse of the NRL in an AFL-dominated market. He's bringing his smarts, know-how, and front office experience to the Broncos, who sorely need it after their displays last year. Anything from you boys on that one?
I think it's a good sign for Brisbane.
Yeah.
Just Melbourne Storm being the organisation they are, and the way they sort of run their business, even outside of footy. You look at, the netball, the Falcons, the Tigers, that kind of stuff. They have success everywhere they go. So, I think he's had a big part to play in that kind of stuff. Look, Brisbane only have one way to go, don't they?
Yeah.
Right now,
another part is, right, you never hear any bullshit. So other than the salary cap scandal, which I don't think he was even part of, nothing came out of Melbourne like crap that comes out of most clubs. I don't remember a controversy coming out of Melbourne in a long time.
Because they don't stand for it. It's the famous thing. When you sign for Melbourne, the first 2 weeks of your contract there, you're out in the public working. Doesn't matter who you are. That's what George Rose said. I can't do this shit, because he was out like council working for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that's. I hope he brings that to Broncos, because,
So just for Melbourne Storm fans, some background of who Justin Rodski is. He's only 39, so quite young for a CEO. good to see. But he spent the last 10 years with Victorian AFL club Essendon, whereas most recently Chief Commercial and Customer Officer. So good sign that he didn't have anything to do with their medical group.
Fuck.
Yeah, Jarrod picked up one. There we go. Thank you. So he's obviously stepping into big shoes. Storm chairman Matt Tripp is still there, and he's been quite as influential as Dave Donaghy, so I wouldn't be worried. Anything with regards to Melbourne, I agree with Billy. Great pickup there from the Broncos.
You look at Donaghy's background, though. University of Queensland, journalist for News Corp for 5 years. Then
We all make mistakes.
Went into administration for Melbourne for a couple of years. Brisbane Lions for 3 years. Storm, they took a punt on this guy. You know, he's got a degree and everything. He didn't have a tremendous amount of administration.
They're taking a punt on this guy, on this new guy as well, because he's never been CEO of a club. He's just been involved in higher up.
It just goes to show you, like, they've got an eye for talent, not just on the field. It's just incredible what they to bring to their club. Rich get rich.
Rich get richer, and that's what. What did I see on that? Someone was arguing about whether the Brisbane Broncos were the biggest sports label in Australia. I'm like, pretty sure they are, and I don't think it's especially that close.
NRL
or not.
Most memberships in the game aren't at the Broncos.
No, but when it comes to brand-wise,
and
they own a whole city pretty
assets.
much. That's nuts. All right, we'll go on to signings. One more on this one. Andrew Abdo has announced a new partnership with regards to online streaming for the NRL for the 2021 season moving forward. Previously, you had to be a Telstra member and you could access live games through Live Pass. That was called? Live Pass. Yeah, Telstra Live Pass subscribers. So now everything's going to be going through KO, which is owned by Foxtel. We know Foxtel has a deal in place with NRL till 2027, so it all kind of makes sense, brings it all under one banner. KO, which is owned by Foxtel, will replace Telstra Live Pass in the NRL digital app. So if you've got the NRL app on your phone and you go to watch a live game, instead of it going through Telstra, now go through KO. Fans, however, will still be able to access all the digital content they used to be able to, but you will no longer just be limited to your phone. It will obviously be able to be accessed through laptop, smart TV, Chromecaster TV, tablet, etc., etc. It's basically giving more access to those who choose to use it. Those who add Telstra Live Pass will get access to the KO app at a discounted rate as part of the loyalty and all that sort of stuff of being a Telstra Live Pass member in the past. I'd assume if you're already a KO member, you'll be accessing all this for free because you're already paying a subscription. It didn't actually have the kickoff date for this to be starting that I can see in here, but it'd be good to get some feedback on that. This is going off the back of Telstra extending its 20-year relationship with the NRL and extending the NRLW, etc., etc., etc. So it's nice to see the big companies working together to provide more access to more people, and the 3 million people on average that access their live content each week.
You right, mate?
The boys are just looking at me. I'm like, okay, wait for them. I'm just doing the information, and you're the ones doing the opinions.
No. We got no opinion on that. Keep going.
Cool. All right, signings. So this will take us to our first big story of the night. This is kind of cool. I'm actually quite excited about this one, but the Cowboys have re-signed Jarrod Bowen for another season. I thought he was a bit hard done by when he was let go to start with. He unfortunately did his shoulder just prior to Christmas when he came back to his preseason block. He's still now expected to miss the first month of the season. He's played 36 games for the club, so it's nice to see him back if you're a Cowboys fan. And this is a good signing. South Sydney have extended the contract of Prop Tavita Totola till the end of 2024. He really got on a run this year. Him and Tom Burgess formed quite a solid 1-2 punch for the Rabbitohs down the middle. If I was a Rabbitohs fan, I'd be stoked with that.
Yeah, no, he's Him and Folau are the next best props coming through. They're real good. Billy, you're on mute.
Yeah, that's all good. So,
I was going to say, they got a few good young forwards coming through South too. Like, you look at their outside backs, but then I think their full pack's better.
Yeah, me and Adam actually went through a depth chart of South Sydney, a couple of weeks ago. It is insane what they've got coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no wonder Latrell's on the block.
Well, that's... Oh, I didn't even have that. Yeah, I don't even have the tab up there of that. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that as well. Mitchell. So, actually, we want to go Latrell Mitchell while we're on the Rabbitohs, or we're going to jump into the Cam McInnes news?
Up to you, mate.
So, yeah, Latrell Mitchell, it looks like 13 clubs are after him. He's rejected the first deal from South Sydney.
Because it was too long.
Yeah, so he's looking at money and short contracts so he can push for, security. Well, I don't know how you'd explain it, but yeah, he's looking for short contracts where he can pick and choose where he wants to go, really. That's where it is. They reckon there's a chance he might go to Broncos because they have been in talks with him. So it'd be interesting, but they've come out and said that there's 13 clubs have inquired into Latrell Mitchell in the last couple of months.
That's including South Sydney. Yeah, there's 12 other clubs. So from his point of view, he's interested in a 1 or a 2 year deal. South Sydney offered him a 3-year deal at $800,000 a year, which he rejected. And some media outlets use the word he's been shopped to the Broncos. I highly doubt South would just go, here, have this player. But there has been talks between Latrell's management and the Broncos since before Christmas. His agents come out and stated that, but also stated that, yes, 12 other clubs have inquired with regards to his services. I think from his point of view, he's looking at how many players are now getting those $1 million contracts. Some of them have been justified. Some of them haven't been. I've talked about my opinion on this a few times, that my hope is in the next couple of years, $1 million is what your run-of-the-mill Patrick Carrigans are going to be on, and your elite players are going to be on the more and more money as we continue to go forward. I don't blame him holding out. The impact that he can have when fit and the more experience he plays at fullback, he'll be $1 million player this season, next season, whatever.
I don't think he's ready for a $1 million contract yet because he's not playing, 22 out of 26 games at a high level like the $1 million players should be.
Yeah, like Ben Hunt.
Well, there always is,
pay premium for a good half, and unfortunately, that's very different. Now, look, Charles, like you said, on his day, great player, game winner. Not on his day.
Doesn't look like he wants to be.
Not even worth a bench spot. So until he's that guy, that Billy Slater kind of guy who's week in, week out, either winning your games or giving you a shot to win a game, he's not worth the money. Honestly.
I agree with that, but I feel as though last year, before he got injured, he was building towards that because he had 3-4 games in a row where he was having an impact on the South and their play, like in a positive way. He'd won them a couple of games. He'd scored a try here, set up an assist there, getting his positioning better, and he couldn't have got injured at a worse time because it looked as though he was finally starting to really get the hang of it.
That's fine and everything, but for a player to be on a limited workload to start the season, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like you can't have that. Like that kind of that position, especially, and that kind of money, you can't have a player sitting there going, "All right, we're going to run you for 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, then sit."
Yeah, I didn't agree with that. But I don't think either of us agreed with that at the time.
And Billy was right. He compared him to Slater, which Slater was that 22 out of 26 games a year where he's consistent. He should have been on $1 million at the end of his career. He wasn't. But that's where Latrell Mitchell needs to be if he wants that $1 million right now. He needs to be Slater level to get that $1 million.
Oh, I don't think you have to be that level. Like, no one's going to be that level.
No, Billy Slater now.
Okay, well, you know what I mean, though.
Billy Slater right now.
He's got to play. You know how he said 3 or 4 games in a row. He's got to play a lot more than that. He is only like 22, 23, so he's got a lot of years left.
Yeah, he's only 23.
But he's got to play a lot more consistently to earn that money.
He comes with baggage. He comes with issues off the field. He doesn't just stick to footy and like put his like you look at someone like Tamalolo, puts his head down. You never hear a peep from that dude outside of he ran for 400 meters in one half yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Against Parramatta.
Yeah, maybe. But either way,
very good.
Until he's at a point, which look, I think he's back in here by taking, asking for a 1 year, 2 year contract, and I respect that aspect of it. But, it's also a risk, a personal risk. You got to go in and then, prove the point that you're worth that 1.2 mil, which he's probably chasing per year.
It's going to be interesting if it'll be interesting if South drop the year off, keep the price, whether he'd sign, just because it seems more that it's the 1 to 2 year, it's the term that is of more interest to him at the moment. That's what it sounds like it's been pushed from management. It's going to be interesting to see if a club and then which club bites on that, because from a club's point of view, 1 to 2 years it allows flexibility. So if this doesn't work, he's on our books for 1-2 seasons rather than 4. But in saying that, it also doesn't allow you to plan more than 2 years ahead in one of the key positions on the field. So it's going to be interesting to see what club goes for that. I could see someone like Penrith, Manly, who have got good fullbacks, but are also injury prone, saying, look, we're interested on a 1 year deal.
Yeah, but he's only going to have that one jersey on his back. That's all.
Yeah, I know.
Manly are not going to drop Trbojevic. So
No, I'm not saying drop, but clubs that have had players like that, I wouldn't see them not putting interest forward at least. If he's only for a 1 year deal, we can give you this.
Warriors are going to throw the bank at him.
Yeah, Warriors could, but that's not. Yeah, actually, Warriors could.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, fun fact on Latrell Mitchell, his birth name is Latrell Goolagong. Goolagong, that's his actual last name, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, cool.
Boom. So that's kind of like that story. Usually on any given week would be one of the biggest, considering the circumstances. He went to South Sydney from Roosters. It looks like South had looked after him. I was actually quite surprised he knocked him back. But with other stuff going on, it's kind of been not swept under the rug, but looked over a little bit. But the big signing dropped yesterday, I believe, or late last night, actually. It came out that Cam McInnes had signed for a rival Sydney club for 4 years from 2022. And the club wasn't named to start with, but it came out pretty quick after. And it could only be the Dragons, who couldn't lock up their captain, but allowed him to sign for their biggest rival for a 4-year contract for not that much money.
I'm well off this. This is pissing me off. I'm not even a Dragons fan. I'd be mad.
It's ridiculous. I didn't have an opinion until I started reading how this was handled from the St. George point of view, in that Anthony Griffin's come in, new coaches have come in, and that turmoil at the club was prioritised over locking this guy up. So there'd been communication between St. George and Cam McInnes' management that he wanted his contract from 2022 onwards locked up before the season started. St. George never got around to offering a formal offer. I don't give a shit what's going on in the front office. You give your captain what he wants to keep in there, because you've just had Tyson Frizzell walk out the door. You've lost Jason Saab. Tristan Saylor doesn't want to be there. He's gone. Gareth Widdop's not coming back on a fucking magic pony or whatever to save your ass.
Who was their star signing this year? Did they sign anyone?
Corey Norman and Ben Hunt are wasting $2 million a season.
Yeah,
you've just let Cam McInnes walk out the door because you couldn't get an offer together.
Do you know what's funny? Griffin's about to offer Norman a multi-million and multi-year deal.
He's trained well, apparently.
Yeah.
He runs laps well.
Yeah. McInnes.
So is Matt Moylan till his hamstring gives out in week 2.
Same with Trebojevic.
Well,
McInnes.
It's not a great endorsement on Anthony Griffin, is it? Because McInnes prefers Gregor, who we all know is a dud. Like, call that for what it is.
Like, McInnes made 60 tackles per game regularly. That might be exaggeration by 6 tackles. But he was the leader of that team. He played so hard every week. He actually cared. Like, not many of the people in that Dragons team looked like they cared last year for a lot of the season. And they let him go, and they're going to sign Norman over the top of him. It's just it does my head in how bad their retention and recruitment is right now. It's insane.
Well, I mean, and considering the other story that come out about the Dragons, I think there's more issues internally. You know, administration-wise, and head coach has his vision. So obviously, you know, McInnes wasn't a fan of that and saw the writing on the wall and see you later.
And he went to a club where it's looked like he's not even going to play his preferred position.
No,
it looks like he's going to start with the 13. Yeah, he's going to start with the 13 next year. Because they've got young Blake Brayley.
I was speaking to Wall about it the other night, and he touched on it, but probably won't last playing lock. Like, he's going to shorten his career by 5 years because he's not big. He'll get back.
Why he didn't get so it's $500,000 a season is the money being thrown out, and to me, for the impact that he has, not so much in attack, but in control and locking up the middle. 500,000 to me seems a steal for a player like this, and whether that's lock money or hooker money, they're not really two positions where we get a good feel of how much they're on. Damien Cook's on 650 something from looking at previously.
Cam Smith and Josh Hodgson are the highest paid.
Yeah, but they're when they'd signed those contracts, they were both international players, etc., etc.
Yeah.
To me, it seems like a bit of a steal. $2 million over 4 years for Cam McInnes looks a hell of a lot better than $2 million for fucking Ben Hunt for 2 years.
And just remember, if this bloke grew up in Queensland, he would have played Origin straight after Smith retired. He's a Queensland player.
Well, if Jake Friend got an Origin gig, McInnes would have got one.
Yeah.
Harry Grant is now.
McInnes is slightly older than Harry Grant. I'm saying 5 years ago he would have played for Queensland.
Now, there's a couple of things that they've said here. This is from St. George. So part of it was Anthony Griffin gave no guarantees about the captaincy or his future when he took over at the end of last season. Matt Duffy and other off-contract players were told the same thing, as the new coaching staff wanted to assess form before making decisions about the St. George Illawarra's roster in future seasons.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's fair. Under Griffin, there is no leadership group, and he's made no call on his captain for 2021. I get that. I also get something else that they've said with regards to the departure of McInnes may just be the start of the shakeup, with 11 other players off contract at the end of the season and the club refusing to be rushed into re-signing any of them. That is 100% fair. The club has every right to be able to do that.
I don't think that's fair to McInnes.
What do you mean it's not fair to McInnes?
McInnes earned to dictate.
You've got a new coach coming into an unsuccessful team.
Yeah, but he's not the reason they're unsuccessful. If you watch them play, it would have been great.
No, but look, I don't care if you make 60 tackles a game. If you don't win the game, what does it mean? Like, who cares?
Look at Robbie Farah in Origin.
Oh, so my point is that McInnes obviously played with his heart and on form. He never played a real bad game. Like, he said he's based on form. What are they going to start doing in the middle of contracts in the middle of the season, are they? Is that what they're going to do? Maybe. This guy has been the captain for the last, 3 years. He's consistently played well. He's led from the front in every game. He comes off the field, he actually gave a crack. Anyone who watched that game could have seen that. And he would have done the exact same thing if Griffin walked in there and actually showed him some respect. But now Griffin's lost the heart and soul of that team. And Frizzell.
The other side of this, I agree with both of you in that the reason the Dragons haven't been playing well is not because of Cam McInnes. He's not one of the weak links in that team. And if you were going to keep players around, he would have been, I'd say to the majority of people, one of the priorities. That priority is now gone. There's already talk of Anthony McCulloch getting brought down to St. George because the Dragons still have to fill 2 roster spots to be eligible for their squad of 30 before the start of the season. That's, 1st of March, that has to be done by. And McCulloch is being lined up supposedly as one of the people to take one of those positions.
I don't think he'll go. He loves the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's worked with Griffin in the past as well. And if, what says there, blah, 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 blah. McInnes to be happy to play lock at the Dragons, as that's the position he's going to be playing at the Sharks, and McCulloch could come down and play hooker. Because this is from McInnes. To be honest, I've signed with the Sharks as a lock, so I wouldn't be going somewhere for 4 years if I wasn't happy to play that position.
I reckon their better move is to play him at hooker to start the game, bring Brayley on and move him to lock.
Yeah, I could see that as well. But the other side is Sharks have put money in development into Brayley. That, regardless of how long that would occur for, that would negate development speed over time because there's just less minutes on the field and experience. And to save his body, but
less wear and tear though. So
less wear and tear, and then you're comparing wear and tear to experience, scenarios, circumstances towards the end of the half or the end of the game that you want players to be able to learn from. I don't know. I don't get the Dragons the last few years. I really don't. If in 4 years Dragons win a premiership, I'll go, Griffin, well done. You made all the right calls. Good job. Right now, I don't see it happening. But
yeah, I think they're a bit of a mess, and other events that definitely suggest that. Like, anyway,
just do it. Just say it. Bring it up, Billy. Come on.
Israel Folau. That to me.
That was the next story we're going to.
that to me is just a massive mistake. Like, what were they thinking? Like, that was like career suicide for that board to even consider that moron. Here's the thing for me. Like, I would understand it more if they were on the cusp of being a top 4 contender, getting a 32-year-old. Look, call it 40 years. He's a megastar, or he was. I don't know. Like, I didn't really follow him too much in the Super League. He wasn't, back end of his union career, wasn't lighting the world on fire or anything. But if they were like right there and they needed like a strike weapon, an outside back or something like that, 100% I get their thinking. These guys are 12th and they're trending down. They're not, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me to bring in this dinosaur who's got all this baggage with him for what, like, for absolutely nothing.
Win a premiership this year, that's what they're hoping.
No, they're not even close to that. And Israel Folau wouldn't get them close to that. It's just baffling. And then for them to be so short-sighted and just completely blind to what happened with the backlash, like, that's what I mean. There's something going on with the board there that they're not seeing.
Yeah,
great.
So I agree with Billy that he won't turn around their roster if they buy him. And before I say this, I don't agree with what that moron has said for the last couple of years on Twitter or video or whatever the hell he's done. I don't agree with it.
In public, in churches.
Yeah, that's what I said. In like stuff like that.
Yep.
But rugby league has a history of, they have a very short memory when it comes to controversy. Like, he said a lot of shit that's not right. 100% agree. But, you got Matt Lodge, who, everyone knows what he did. There's not even half the backlash from when he started up with the Broncos. You got Latrell Mitchell and Addo Carr last year, who threatened people's lives by purposely breaking COVID laws. Ask Billy from America what happens when COVID laws don't get followed. The whole America is on fire because of COVID right now. You got, Andrew Johns got defended for 10 years. For 10 years of his career, got protected by the NRL in Newcastle because he was blatantly doing drugs and they knew it. This guy's come out on Twitter and said a lot of disrespectful things and alienated an entire part of our society. But he hasn't. That's not as bad as what all these other people have done. And the NRL have let him back in with no issue. Well, not no issue, but I just don't think compared to what Matt Lodge did. And I'm okay with Matt Lodge playing because they gave him a second chance. But are you actually saying it's worse what he did compared to Matt Lodge?
Well, here's the thing. Matt Lodge put his hand up, showed remorse, went into rehab, did everything he could to clean his name. Israel Folau won't walk back and say what I did was wrong. He won't admit that. He won't say it. He won't.
Yeah,
no.
but what he did was an opinion.
It doesn't matter, Jarrod.
Words.
I understand.
Matt Lodge walked into someone's house and beat up a guy in front of his whole family.
I don't think Matt Lodge should be in the NRL either. I think he should.
But that's the thing. I don't consider what Folau did is worse than Matt Lodge. I don't consider what Folau did worse than what Latrell Mitchell did.
Here's the thing. Matt Lodge terrorized 3 people physically. I understand it. Belongs in prison. Absolutely. Should have served his term. Israel Folau hurt so many more people than Matt Lodge ever will. He hurt, the things he said.
I agree.
I'm all for free speech. It's whatever. It's important. It's what separates us from the North Koreans and the Russians and all that.
In Australia, though, we don't have a law about free speech.
You don't need a law. It's just.
No, I'm just saying it's different to
whatever
out of America.
There's no law in America. It's just an amendment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, amendment. Yeah, we don't even have that.
It's not a law, but ultimately everyone follows it. But the thing is, you can say what you want all day, every day, absolutely, but there's consequences to what you say. And
I agree. And
you say that at any other employer or any other job in the world, you're done.
Yeah, you will be, but you'd get another job after.
Would you?
Yeah, but Matt Lodge, for what he did with his criminal record, wouldn't.
All right. So I was having a look at this online. There's just seeing the reaction of the book, 'cause that's where I first saw it. Now, 100% agree with Jarrod with regards to Matt Lodge as an example. We keep saying his name. There's others as well. 100% agree that there are players in the NRL currently who should not be there due to a variety of crimes. What I have to say this as well. Those people have gone through court cases, pleaded their case. Jack DeBellin being an example, still going through. If they're ultimately proved innocent or they've done their time and they've shown remorse, a club may be willing to give them a second chance. But Folau's never going to show remorse. And I know what he said wasn't illegal, but hate speech like that over a long period of time is going to affect a hell of a lot more people. It's going to affect... We're never going to see the numbers on it. What Israel Folau said could have killed people. There could be teenage boys, teenage girls, older people who have killed themselves over that sort of hate speech because they've rocked up to work the next day and someone said, see what Israel Folau said about you. That is going to carry a hell of a lot more weight over a long period of time because he's affected people he's never met before and will never meet through an online medium. And if people still in today's world can't see the hate, can't see the harm that hate speech breeds, I don't know what to say. If St. George signed him, there was online accounts last night going to Coca-Cola are you saying that you support Israel Folau and their beliefs? Every one of St. George sponsors were sent online messages last night saying, through Twitter, do you support Israel Folau? Do you support Israel Folau? Because if you do, if you don't, your club is about to sign him and he's going to be linked with your brand going forward.
Yeah, no, see, like I said at the start, I don't agree with what he said. I reckon what he said was horrible.
There is not one positive of having him in the NRL.
No,
apart from the fact that he would walk in and be one of the best backline players. But
see,
NRL's got its TV deal. It doesn't need
I'm not criticising. I'm criticising the NRL right now.
They haven't done anything wrong.
What? They didn't register him. What do you mean? They didn't do anything.
For their history of letting people who've done crimes back in. But that's what I'm criticising for them. My point was I brought up examples of NRL registering contracts, defending, like, perfect example, defending Andrew Johns. He came out and admitted that he failed drug tests throughout his career. They have let people back in by doing things that are absolutely horrible.
It's not the same thing. The Andrew Johns thing isn't close to the
same. No, but my point is that this is just another story.
That's an Andrew Johns problem. This is bigger than just it affects so many more people. Yeah. And look, the fact that, you know, he's even it just blows my mind that he's even.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of him coming back.
St. George is that screwed up that someone's gone, you know what? Israel Folau would solve our options. There's no downside to this.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, what are you thinking? The other
I 100% don't agree with him.
Jarrod. I think, I'm not a lawyer. One of my mates will probably get into about this, but the NRL, I don't think they would have grounds to say, no, you cannot be part of this comp if time had been served and blah, 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 because then you're denying somebody an opportunity to seek employment based on something that's been cleared up by law, because yes, they've done the wrong thing, but they've paid for it. They're now a not new, but a contributing member to society again. That could, I don't know 100%, but I could see down the line that could be some form of a discrimination based on past stuff. The other side to that is the NRL you're talking about isn't here anymore. We've seen since Vlandis and Abdo took charge over Gallup and those guys before. This is a brand new system. The fact that he's reinvigorating it every 3 years to ensure that people don't get stale and old and stagnant. The fact that Abdo had already come out and said, if this goes further, they were going to take fan opinion and sponsorship opinion into it before they made a decision. I highly doubt it would have been ever signed off anyway.
No, I don't think he should. And I am perfectly happy if NRL take a stand. The only thing I'm outlining is that NRL have a history of allowing players like that. Not like that specifically, but players who've done things back in.
Under precedent, though, they're reformed players. This guy will not be.
How do you know that he reformed? He reformed?
Yeah. How many people? Matt Lodge won't even throw a punch on the field anymore. What do you mean?
Okay. Well,
not with the ball or without it.
Andrew Johns was not reformed.
Well, that doesn't matter anymore. He's not a player.
But that's the point. I'm perfectly happy with NRL taking a stand. I'm so happy. If they do, I hope they continue it. But only time will tell. I don't want Folau to play. 100%. I agree with you 100% that he's affected so many people. But I hope the NRL take a stand. And for stuff like this that, you know, happens again, because it will happen again in the NRL. We can't deny that. That it continues that they won't let anyone else like that in. That's
so the thing is, of all these other people who have, you know, again, domestic violence, drugs, all that piece, you know, they've done their time, served their time, gone through their rehab programs, and it's them then setting an example for other people who have potentially fallen off the rails that way, that there is a way to reform yourself and then get back on your feet. But this is not that kind of situation. This is a guy who, you know, has his beliefs, standing by his beliefs, is maybe agreeing to a social media ban, which he's had in the past and still violated. Let's mention that. So he's got a repeated history of going back on his word anyway, but won't stand down from his comments, you know. And for anyone to even say, like, for James Hooper to come out and say, you know, his justification was I'll read the quote. Rugby league is the most inclusive sports on the planet. Unlike AFL, can be proud of the melting pot for cultures in a way it accepts and it treats equality. But what Folau says is complete opposite to that. It's so
what was do you want to read out? This is unfortunately we're talking prior to the show because with Billy being in America and the fact we haven't heard much about Joe Biden since he's taken over because Fox Sports has literally nothing to write about because they're so pro-Trump. James Hooper is so pro Fox Sports brown nose article journalism that he would fit straight into an agenda like that because he has absolutely no read on present social culture. Like the headline for that article when everyone was up in arms was something along the lines of settle down snowflakes. Israel should play. Like if that's your headline, you are as deaf as a fucking doorknob, man.
Yeah, he needs to be out of the game as well. Honestly, like a few years ago, I didn't mind James Hooper.
Yeah, me neither. He's
decided to be that guy who wants to be the guy everyone hates, and
sells articles.
And look, I mean, he generates clicks and all that, and whether he's doing it for business, then that's a whole different story. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you're a moron, James Hooper. Like,
I looked on Twitter last night. There was his. So you go, Bill. You go.
I was gonna say he's the guy over here in America who'd be like, oh, Trump's a racist, Trump's everything, but he's a pretty good guy. Let's call that word.
Yeah, like it was. Oh, what was I saying? Someone on there underneath said.
He played for the Dragons. Is it because he's a Dragons fan? I don't know. Like,
someone underneath it said, "Hey, that was a pretty good read," and he continued to have an opinion. And I put underneath it, as soon as you got to, "It was a pretty good read," that was the end of me reading your tweet because holy shit.
So just to finish on Folau, I agree with Billy. I agree with Adam. I don't think he should play, but I just don't want him to follow in the NRL footsteps of allowing players who've done past transgressions to play, and the NRL have a history of letting elite talents get in the way with a bit more than players with lesser talent. And
Jack de Bellin's been sitting on the sideline for 2 years.
Yeah, no, and that's what I hope is the standard right now. But the NRL's proven in the last 20 years alone that it has done that. I hope they put a stop to it. I hope they don't allow Folau to play. But my point is that he's done what he's done. That was the point. Yeah, there you go. He's done what he's done. A lot of players, in my opinion, with domestic violence, drugs and all that, yeah, they've done reform, but they've still done it. And they haven't sat out as long. It just annoys me.
I'm fine with that as well. But that's a thing for another. To wrap this one up, this is pretty much the Dragons season prior and during in 2 sentences. Both quotes from the Dragons. While the Dragons did inquire about signing Folau, the club can confirm that such discussions have now ceased. With further detail and having weighed the pros and cons of the move, the Dragons decided against pursuing the interest any further. I love with further detail and having weighed the pros and cons of the move. You don't think you would have thought of that beforehand. But anyway, moving on.
Israel Folau's NRL career is over.
Far out. Oh, man. Let's go to Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, considering we're on, unfortunately, soon to be 2. Well, fortunately for one, but unfortunately for the second to be soon an ex-NRL player. Warriors captain, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, after everything they've gone through last year. I can't blame the Warriors in letting him go for everything he has and will continue to give to the club. But he's going to leave rugby league at the end of the 2021 season and head back to rugby union. We know him, Kalen Ponga, Other players have talked about their dream to play for the All Blacks. You can't deny them that. To me, still, they're the most professional international sporting team on the planet of any sport. They're like the Melbourne Storm, continuous professionals. Anyway, it's a huge blow to the Warriors. It's a huge blow to the NRL. It's a huge blow to Rugby League in New Zealand. I wish him all the best. If you've never seen his rugby union highlights, he started in the Auckland Blues system. He's a union kid almost all the way through, but the Roosters pretty much made him an offer at a time that he couldn't refuse. And like all young guys looking after himself at that stage, that's fair. Half of me is sad he's leaving the NRL. The other half of me can't wait to see him play rugby and see if he can still see if he can take his skills from here in an open field a bit more and showcase what he's got to offer. Because we've seen so many NRL guys go to the Wallabies. It'd be quite a different thing for someone to crack the All Blacks outside of Brad Thornton.
It's not a walk-in.
Sonny Bill did it, so.
I am actually
Sonny
happy.
Bill's kind of a slightly above a general average athlete, we'll say.
I'm actually happy that he's going. Not that he's going to the Union. I'm just happy he's leaving the Warriors. I'm honestly, if you look at his highlights of the Roosters, on the end of that back line, he was an absolute superstar back then, and he finished so well. He went to the Warriors, and they pretty much shoveled the ball to him and went, hey, can you do something brilliant? He was able to, but he was also expected to take the shit runs out of their own half. He was also expected to, shoulder a lot more than he had to shoulder as a fullback. Sorry?
What do you got the money for?
Well, he didn't get much money compared to other fullbacks. Like, compared to, Ponga, compared to players half his talent, he didn't get as much money as them. And he led that team. What do you reckon? He ran about 180 meters average per game. And that was because Warriors just expected him to do everything. And it just, I felt so bad for him because he could still do something brilliant, but they still expected him to do it every single time to touch the ball. And so they didn't put him in a position ever. He just had to get the ball and try to do something. And that's how the Warriors played him for so long.
I agree with the majority of that in that the management of the Warriors as a whole club through his tenure has been below par, below average. And unfortunately, he's been a constant there the whole time. And Mr. Old Reliable, he's got magic feet. He can do all this, but that's negated if you're having to do your runs out of your in-goal all the time because your forwards and outside backs aren't high enough quality to get back and do it outside of Vadavai, Mamalo, and Fusatua when they haven't been injured. And that has negated some of his impact. In saying that, he's won a Dally M for them. For those who play NRL fantasy, he's always been relevant, and that's hard to do as an outside back if you're in a shitty team. It shows the work that he does get through and the impact he still has on the game in a key position at a very inconsistent club. He could have been better utilised, sure. I'm still under the opinion that he's only 27. He could go to Union for 3 years. He's still got the skill and the talent to make that team go to a World Cup and come back and still be close to an elite player. He won't come back as an elite. I don't think he will, but he'll come back still very close to the top.
I would love to see him in his prime time years. So he left Roosters, when he was 25, 24, 25?
That'd be earlier than that. He's been at the... he's on 1.1 million, by the way.
Yeah, I think he's worth more. I honestly do. He's that good.
Yeah.
I just think that if he was in, the Melbourne system, the Roosters system again, even the Canberra system, I reckon if he was there, he would have been a lot better just because they would have actually played. Wouldn't have just expected him to do everything, and that's what
you've just highlighted 3 clubs that have had stable coaching through that whole tenure.
Okay.
Put him in the West Tigers, he'd be in the same position he's at the Warriors, I'd say.
I still reckon he probably would have done better.
Well, look at Valentine. Look at Valentine Holmes
him.
at the Cowboys last year, where they were at the end of not really knowing what was going on. It's just you give it to the fullback and let them do their thing because Val Holmes is Val Holmes and he can do that stuff. Same sort of thing. So he's been at the Warriors since 2016. So 16, 17, 18. He's played more for the Warriors than he ever has for the Roosters.
Most of his highlights are still with the Roosters.
Yeah. He scored 2 less tries at the Warriors in 10 more games. So it's not that big a... I don't know.
One more goal as well. No, I think there's 2 ways to look at it. You know, it's a blow to the Warriors.
100%.
Just don't care about the Warriors, you know, like too bad. But, you know, the other thing, it's an endorsement for rugby league. Like, he goes in, you know, plays a starring role for the All Blacks. All of a sudden, you know, it's going to be a tough road for him. So I think, you know,
he'll be up against Bowden Barrett, Damien McKenzie if they throw him at fullback. Israel Daggs past it now. Who's the other young guy? Stevenson from Waikato. Oh,
no, they're brothers.
Super Rugby.
Bowden Barrett. 3 Barretts?
There's 3 Barretts,
3.
Yeah.
Geordie Barrett plays fullback more regularly than Bowden, but Bowden can play 5'8" or fullback, and he's in the top 2 in the world for both position.
Because he can't kick.
Oh yeah, he'll be, to me, he'll be a wing. He doesn't have the size to be a union center. Union centers are different to, like look at Ngani Lamape, who was in the Warriors at the same time as Conrad Hurrell. They were the 2 chunky centers. He has been absolutely brilliant in rugby for the last 2 years. He's a starting All Black centre now. And you look at how he's built, he's like a freaking house with feet. Like, he's...
Mate, Thomas Flegler would dominate rugby union. And Thomas Flegler's dad. So.
As a centre.
What's that, Flegler?
Oh, he's the worst.
Billy hates it.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't know you didn't like Flegler. Jesus.
I reckon he could rip it up. Like,
wasn't your starting front row last year Kane Evans, and you're giving shit to Flegler?
Anyway, good luck to Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I hope that you guys have a brilliant year. I hope we get to see a bit more out of you with Nathan Brown and the differences the Warriors have got this year.
So I'm actually curious how Nathan Brown's going to handle this because he's lost his captain in the first 3 months of coaching them. So is he going to throw money at fullback or is he going to develop one?
That would have been a discussion taking place before Nathan Brown came over. Because it's not like this has been a secret.
Yeah, this hasn't popped up out of nowhere.
We know Kalen Ponga's thinking the same thing at the end of this contract.
Oh yeah, 100%. I wouldn't be surprised. If Newcastle don't get in the top 4 in the next 2 years, I'm expecting Ponga to go, to be honest.
We'll go the last thing on the players, and then we're just going to cap the All-Stars lineups, and that'll be it for tonight because it's been heavy. So other news that has come out this week is that the Roosters have formally applied for salary cap relief from the NRL with regards to Boyd Cordner, expecting to take a lengthy stint away from the game with regards to ongoing concussion symptoms. So just to give a history of how this works, if a player sustains an injury in a representative game, Australia, State of Origin, that will limit their ability to play for their club side, the club can apply for salary cap relief. Now, in order for that to happen, the player cannot play for 3 months or a 12-week span, and they get $350,000 with regards to salary cap relief. In saying that, so that means the Roosters can bring in a player on a $350,000 contract, or they can use that money elsewhere, cut a player, bring up another player. They can use that money how they need. The issue that has come around this is outside the fact that it's the Roosters and salary cap and all those jokes aside. This was due to Boyd Cordner sustaining his concussion in the first State of Origin last year, going off the field, having a HIA test, then coming back onto the field. Now, the NRL was very clear around concussion protocols, and if you don't follow them properly, the club was going to get fined. If they weren't followed correctly, the NRL really doesn't have a foot to stand on in this, because they've failed at their own criteria that they've put in place by allowing it to get to this point. They will have to pay out this deal. Most of the other argument is he had 3 earlier concussions this season. How do they know it was this one that's now having these symptoms? This could have been stemming from the 3rd one that he hadn't paid attention to yet, etc., etc. That's been the discussion around this. It's different to doing an ACL in a State of Origin game. Yeah, I don't know.
So this concussion rule, I'm not a fan of. The whole thing.
Well, which concussion rule do you mean? The compensation or the HIA?
No.
protocol?
Okay, so the basic go off the field, the HIA, we'll start there. Because that's the criticism originally at Origin.
Yeah.
Because he went back on.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it because it depends who the player is, if they go off the field. Like Ponga, every single time he catches the ball, he has whiplash on his head, gets up groggy, and then they assess him, go home, and keep him playing. I think he went off twice when it happened about 40 times last year.
Yeah, but the NRL reviews that footage, and if they say this is a case where he should have been taken from the field, Newcastle Knights will get fined for not doing it, regardless of. Yeah, well then they
kept doing it,
protocol.
but they kept doing it. Like the amount of times Ponga hit his head on the ground or anything like that, and he kept playing. If that was, a player who wasn't Ponga's caliber, he would have played. Boyd Cordner. I
don't know if you make that generalization.
Well, I honestly don't believe, like, you get some of the smallest head knocks in the world. If there's a second rower who's played the last 20, or a front rower who's played the last 20 minutes, they're going off for a 10-minute stint on the HIA, pass it, come back on, that's a free 10-minute rest. It happens all the time. So Boyd Cordner last year, for that Origin, he should not have come back on. 100% agree. I don't agree that they're getting compensation for this because he's been dealing with his concussion for 2 years. I reckon this whole thing's absolutely dodgy. And coaches and clubs, like they do, every new rule that comes in the NRL, they have found a way to exploit it, just like they've found a way to exploit these concussion rules. I reckon they honestly have. Because it's just the amount of players who get heavy knocks, who are halfbacks, 5'8", fullbacks, hookers, don't go off the field as much as, say, a front rower, a second rower, or anything like that. Because you rest those front rowers and second rowers and locks. You don't rest the fullback, halfback, and stuff. So with Boyd Cordner, how long did he barely even made Origin last year for concussion? I think he played 2 games in the whole season before concussion, didn't he?
He defended like he had concussion too.
Yeah.
Not only that, the other thing they do as well is a shoulder burner or something that needs to get looked at.
Exactly right.
Straight on the. Clearly it's a shoulder or a knee, but it's
now.
I honestly
none of us three are negating the impact of a concussion. I've definitely sustained a couple. I'm sure Billy and Jarrod have at some point, and
Billy has. He sports para.
Yeah, we've done. That was actually pretty good. We've talked previously. Concussion's a word that's just thrown around like it's nothing. It's your brain bleeding. Like it's not something small. It's a really large injury. It's the fact that we can't see it internally. I think people throw it off as something else. The issue I have is how do the Roosters pinpoint and how do the doctors pinpoint it was that one that he's off for 3 months for. I agree that he shouldn't have even been playing the Origin series based on what his previous year had been. I don't think it's going to open a can of worms, but it's not a good look. Regardless, I wouldn't be surprised to see some form of change to the HIA protocol. I don't know what that is. I'm not a medical professional, but I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out before the season based off this as a lead-in example.
I'm not sure there needs to be a change in the protocol. It's more the fact that if that was his very first concussion in Origin, there's no way he's sitting out 12 weeks of this season. It's
that's
previous,
exactly right.
Some players are, but it's not a regular occurrence that they'd be out off on their first one.
No chance if that was his very first ever concussion that he's in this position right now. It wasn't from Origin that caused him to be in this position. It's from his previous concussions, club games, rep games, don't matter. It's all the same shit. It's a build up to what it has been. Did that one put him in a position where he is now? Yes, but it's overall the build up that has caused this exact instance. So I don't think they're in a position to say, hey, like, we deserve compensation for this.
Exactly right. Like I said, I think he played 2, maximum 3 games before the Origin series because he spent half the season, including COVID, recovering from concussion last year. So, yeah.
I'm not sure what 3 things he's going to get him either. You're not going to get Boyd Cordner caliber.
You'll get Boyd Cordner defense.
He played 4 bad games, Adam. Leave him alone.
You can maybe hire the Dragon board and have them make some decisions for you. They're working.
I don't agree with this. They shouldn't be getting compensation.
I have no way. We're gonna cover Paul Green, and we'll do that on Sunday if we.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll do Paul Green now. We'll do All Stars on Sunday because they play the weekend following. So what we're going to finish with tonight is why time is now right as Maroons turn to green. So we spoke a few weeks ago. Jarrod and I were throwing around names for the vacant Queensland Maroons position. Paul Green was one of them. Neither of us endorsed him with a great sense of confidence. He did play 7 Origin games. He's been in and around the Queensland team over the past decade or so. He's had the success at the Cowboys. He is a vacant coach at the moment. A lot of that sort of stuff makes sense. He was in the battle for the Brisbane Broncos job. I can see the point of view. The thing that shocked me is that it's looking like a 1-year contract, which makes sense from a business point of view. If it doesn't go well, the Maroons haven't tied themselves long term. But Maroons' success has been based on loyalty. Last season being an example of that, similar to previous years where we've kept players who have underperformed during club, Dane Gagai being a perfect example. It seems odd to me that Queensland are offering a 1-year deal where they'd usually provide security for a longer period like they did with Walters.
I think one way to look at it actually is did Queensland offer the 1-year deal or did Green request the 1-year deal? Because he's not getting a head coach at this point. So he might be holding out for say like, all right, I don't have anything this year. Let's do Origin. That's fine. I'll do what I can do there. And then let's see what unfolds with the upcoming season. Who's on the hot seat? Who gets fired? What's my options as far as NRL? Because I do think his priority is to be an NRL coach.
I'm questioning.
I think so too.
I'm questioning Queensland's depth for coaches. No disrespect to Paul Green because he's obviously got the resume there. I'm talking about Slater. So either they don't have anyone else to consider, or he's a genius. Like the fact that they're considering a guy.
They'll throw an Alan Langer's name out there as well.
Yeah. Like the fact they're considering a guy who retired 2 years ago and never coached at any level, high level, and he's going straight to what the second top job in Australia for rugby league, shared with Brad Fittler, obviously. But I know, he's got a history of Mal Meninga coached Canberra back in the early 90s and didn't do too well. Brad Fittler coached the Roosters in early 2000s and didn't do well, and they brought him in. But at least they have that experience. At least they went away from the game and learnt, management skills and all that kind of stuff. Slater, as far as I can tell, retired, went straight into Fox Sports as an analyzer.
Channel 9, I think.
Yeah, Channel 9. So
now Stan
is
Sport.
he
No
the
free
genius, or are they just lacking depth?
Oh,
Yeah,
I think it's a depth thing.
Yeah.
Look at what Origin is, though. Like, you don't need to be a master coach in Origin. You need to be a player motivator, and you need
Manager.
to have. You've got two. New South Wales and Queensland are the two best teams in the world. Would beat any other team on the planet, no doubt about it. You know what I mean? No one's beaten these two teams. All you need is someone to come in and say, all right, this is our game plan, solid game plan, which I'm sure Slater's fine with because he's played in great teams for his entire career, and then be a person who can get players up for the game, get them ready to play, motivate them, whether or not that was his sticking point. That's why Paul Green got the nod. I don't know. End of the day, I don't think you need to come in with a huge amount of coaching experience. You just need to have them kind of qualities as an Origin.
Okay.
He was a terrible NRL coach.
Politician.
That's my point. That's my point. But I got a question for you. So you think it's more man management, not coaching, do you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you reckon that if Slater took the reins in 2020, that they would have won the thing, or do you reckon that was just Bennett?
Too many variables of that one. It's a very different situation.
But do you reckon that Bennett was the reason you guys won?
No, I think Cam Munster was. And New South Wales' lack of game plan, that was a big part of it. But,
well, that's the thing. That's coaching.
Brad Fittler's not a good coach. He failed in the NRL. He was terrible.
Yeah, but Mal Meninga was just, and he's considered one of the greatest coaches in Origin history.
I don't think any other coach. I'm not the biggest Wayne Bennett fan of the last his last 10 sort of years, but I don't think there'd be any other coach outside of Mal Meninga that would have got the same result for Queensland. In saying that, I don't think it came down to coaching. And from what all the players said, it came down to Bennett's ability to get the squad to believe in itself, rather than
So I agree with that.
Plan things out or anything like that. I think Cherry Evans did say there were some simple things we were focusing on, but every single player had one thing to focus on because Bennett managed them individually.
Yeah,
now
so I agree with
highlighted things as well that he did, but I also think at some half times, if they were down, he would have gone to his whiteboard and been Billy Slater, Greg Inglis, Cooper Cronk, Jonathan Thurston. There's your game plan. Win.
Yeah,
I agree with that. But
who's got a better winning percentage than Wayne Bennett? Craig Bellamy. Look at his Origin career.
Look, my question for you is that you said originally that a coach doesn't need to coach in Origin level. You need a man manager. Is that correct?
You need to
then
coach,
you turned
but
around.
it's majority man management.
Yeah, but then Billy turned around and said that New South Wales lost because they had a bad game plan and bad tactics. So which is it? Does Brad Fittler need better tactics? Or does he need to be a better man manager? Or did Wayne Bennett beat the shit out of him in both?
I also think you separate game plan and statistics from coaching.
No, I do, but I just want to ask Billy the question, which one is it? Because Brad Fittler lost through tactics, but you said that you don't need to have tactics in order, you need to be a man manager. So which one is it?
I didn't say that. I said you don't need to be a full head coach, because a head coach will come in, they'll have a preseason training plan, go through the whole, but what you watch round one, every single one of them so bulky, and
no, I get that, but you just said, like, I just brought up the thing.
You look at Trent Robertson, right? He's considered a great coach because he's so technical. You don't have the time in Origin to be technical. Like, he looks at things like I was watching that Jackson Hastings interview, right? He was looking at things where, like, when you're on a certain part of the field, they want you to, like, if you're on the 40-meter line, you need to be defending as a half 20 meters in. When you get down to the 20-meter line, you need to be 22 meters in or out. You know what I mean? Like, he's so technical. You don't have time for that in Origin. Whereas Origin, you have to be a good man manager. You have to be getting them, like Adam said, believing in themselves, up for the game. But of course, you need a game plan for that game, but you don't plan over a season. All right, we're going to bash ourselves for the first 5 weeks, try and get 5 wins. Then we're going to taper off a little bit and really manage your season. You know what I mean? You don't have time for that. You're basically going in there and say, all right, we're kicking to the corners, do what we do well. Here's our strengths, work our forwards to the middle, and then we've got these strike.
Yeah, I get all that. I'm just questioning, do you think Slater has the man management skills, or does he need 10 years to learn it?
Not
and
yet.
Do you honestly think that without Bennett as the coach, you guys would have won last year?
It's hard to say, isn't it? So
look, I already said that. It'd be Meninga or Bennett. I don't think Kevin Walters could have done that. Saying that, I think that's also in there lies the biggest challenge for Paul Green, because you could see it at the Cowboys. I don't think his coaching skill has diminished at all. It would be in that it was the same message from the same voice. And outside of Tamalolo, it looked like it was getting old. Todd Payton's a completely different style from what we've seen. And it might have literally just been the motivation. She saw someone like SN Masters. I've never seen, well, if I put my mind to it, I probably would. But the drop-off from what he was at the Tigers to what he was at the Cowboys in one season was huge. And yeah, it could be the upheaval of moving, young family, all that sort of stuff. But part of Paul Green's job was to get those players up. And he wasn't up all season. You could see it. It was a completely different player. So that may be the biggest challenge for him moving in. That sort of stuff he can work individually on, and he doesn't have to do all the planning outside that. That'll do us for this episode of 6 Again. It was a big one. It was a heavy one. There's been a lot of stuff going on. We will preface that by saying the Maroons haven't officially stated that, yes, Paul Green's the next head coach, but all the news is pointing that way. We're going to be recording again on Sunday. We're going to be looking at the season preview for the Broncos, the Cowboys, the Titans, and the Warriors. We'll also be covering the Brisbane Bombers and Western Corridor joint bid for the next NRL expansion team, looking at 2023, if things get back on track, etc., etc. And who knows what other news the NRL will throw our way. Thank you again to Billy for joining us from Pennsylvania. It's like 6:30 a.m. or something Wednesday morning, I would assume.
Wednesday morning, yeah.
Wednesday morning. It's 9:55 Queensland time here. We do have Jamie Soward on the show next week. I did say it was going to be this week. I apologize for that. He's on the show next week. He'll be helping us look at the round 1 predicted list, etc. for Canberra and Melbourne Storm. And we're hoping to tie in another guest star for further teams the week after that. But back to 2 episodes a week. Thank you for all the supporters for tuning in. That's everything from me. Anything from you boys to sign off?
Nah, thanks for Billy for coming on and waking up at 4:30 in the morning to come on.
Yeah, I'm usually up for my morning run anyway, so.
All right, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to 6 Again. Connect with the show on Twitter, Instagram, and the 6 Again website. All links via the show's bio. Be sure to check out Adam's craft beer choice of the week.